Hello, my name is Casey Shutt, pastor at King's Cross Church, and this is Little Church, where we are talking about how best to raise our families and our children in the teaching and instruction of the Lord, to be a worshiping community. And so here we are. Educators talk about head, heart, and hands as being kind of the three targets for education. And it's actually a very biblical idea, right? That education should affect the mind. I think of Jack Black in School of Rock. He, under false pretenses, takes the sub role at an elite private school somewhere in the Northwest, and the principal asks if he needs anything else besides what she provided him, the instructions she provided. He said, "Just give me minds that I can mold." And that's, we talk about that a lot, right? The education is the molding of minds, but that's not exclusively what education is, at least not good education, which is why this last video I mentioned the shortcoming of electronic media, right? If education is just content delivery, then let's YouTube video it all day long, but it's not. Education must also reach the heart, and it must also reach the hands, right? It should affect how we live in the world. And this is a biblical idea as well, that Paul talks in Romans about our minds being renewed, and that the teaching that we receive should affect how we live our lives. But Christian teaching also gives priority to the heart. Jesus called the heart the wellspring of life. It is the fulcrum out of which we live. And St. Augustine emphasized the value of the heart as well. And for me personally, James Smith, a philosopher at Calvin College, has written a lot on this topic, and it's been very helpful to me. And I'm going to read a quote from Smith talking about the church and how the church needs to do a good job at reaching hearts. And I would extend his point to little churches in the home. So let's read. Smith says, "I suggest that on one level, Victoria's Secret," that's right, the little lingerie shop, "is right just where the church has been wrong. More specifically, I think we should first recognize and admit that the marketing industry is operating with a better, more creational, more incarnational, more holistic anthropology," right? Anthropology referring to what it means to be human. So like, who are we as humans? That the marketing industry has a better grasp of who we are as humans than much of the evangelical church, Smith says. In other words, I think we must admit that the marketing industry is able to capture, form, and direct our desires precisely because it has rightly discerned that we are embodied, desiring creatures whose being in the world is governed by the imagination. Continuing, marketers have figured out the way to our heart because they get it. They rightly understand that at root we are erotic creatures who are oriented primarily by love and passion and desire. But meanwhile, the church has been duped by modernity and has bought into a kind of Cartesian, and he's referring to Rene Descartes, who famously said, "I think, therefore I am." And he built his kind of foundation for philosophical thinking in the fact that we were sort of independent individual thinking things, heads, brains on a stick, you might say. So that model of the human person, and it's wrong. It's just off, right? It wrongly assumes that the heady realm of ideas and beliefs is the core of our being. These are certainly part of being human, but I think they come second to embodied desire. And because of this, the church has been trying to counter the consumer formation of the heart by focusing on the head and missing the target. It's as if the church is pouring water on our head to put out a fire in our heart. It's a great quote, and it's kind of an extended quote, but it's really helpful. And so as little churches, we need to recognize the value of the heart in teaching our children. In other words, if they know the Westminster Shorter Catechism, but if they're jerks about it because they're like, I know this whole thing, or if they, just knock their Bible stuff out of the park, that's not enough. Like, content's not enough. The litmus test of whether we have been successful is a life marked by loving and joyful obedience to the Lord. Do they love God? That's the question. And so as we move forward in this priority of the heart is an important piece that's going to shape quite a bit in some of these lessons to come. We'll see you next time.